You about Pear Deck. Pear Deck is a interactive site used for lecturing. It also has some gaming techniques. So really quickly, this is the beginning of the Pear Deck page. If you come to pricing here, there's 3 different levels. You can do free, you could do $149.99 per year as a premium, or you can do custom. Your free, basically, you could do lectures that are immersive, that are synchronous only. You can do flashcard review games. You can control the place so it locks the students from moving ahead, and it works with Google and Microsoft. The individual premium, you are adding questions on the fly. You have more premium features like dragging and dropping interactions. You can do asynchronous student paced mode, and you can add audio and provide student feedback. And custom is whatever your district would like. To get started, I'm going to log in here. This is what it will look like. I have used this very little in my classes. I did have it when I student taught from Penn State. But I can come here and hit either create lesson, or I can do that from Google Slides in my extension as an add-on. And I made a sample Pear Deck slides to just show you what I used. You can do a quick launch, so I can open a prompt really quickly as a premium member. Just have it once on my board and have students do it as they walk in. They also have some practice tools, which I'll show in here in a second. So I went ahead and I launched my Pear Deck, and I have it on my screen as well on my phone so that we can go ahead and take a look at it. So it says we are waiting for a student. So when a student goes ahead and log on, and I'll show it on my phone, it does give them this like emotional, like how are you feeling today, which is really nice to help build that community. I'm checking in on my students. I can say they feel great, they don't feel that great, or they feel in the middle. I get that feedback as a teacher, and I can see where my students are at. So it's going to help build that community as we get going. Now that I have a student in, I can go ahead and start my class. So I did this on bone fractures. That's a lesson that I'm teaching right now in my vet science class. To get started, I can write, so how do animals break their bones? This will provide some sort of brainstorming technique into my class for my students to go ahead and talk through. And I'm currently answering the question on my phone so that we can see how this works. So this will allow students to brainstorm before the lesson even begins of how do animals go ahead and break their bones? What are we seeing? What do you think? So I can go ahead and it's going to let me, there we go. They can fall, and I can type that in. If I hit done, it will show up then on the board. I've got to make sure though that I'm hitting show responses, so they can fall. I can say that the animal can go ahead and be hit. And anything that I'm typing as I'm typing goes onto there so the students can interact in a discussion forum type way. And then go ahead and hide my responses. I can lock their screen. So right now on my screen I cannot move ahead. And we can keep going. So we can use that and keep talking. From there I can keep going through. I have some slides. It's showing up on my end as well as the student view. It's going to go ahead and show the slides here so that the students can follow along pretty easily. Then I can come down to my next one. So I can say true or false. A transverse is is straight across the bone break. I can hit show responses, and I can go ahead and click either true or false, and I can see as a class where do we fall. This is a great formative assessment tool to allow students to engage themselves and see how much they're learning. It allows me also to, as a teacher, to check in with my students, which was deemed to be pretty important, is having that teacher-student interaction with their students to make them, one, build community, but two, feel like they are actually facilitating the educational process of this information. And if I don't want my students to know the responses, I can hit hide responses so that no one feels bad if one person did false and everybody else did true. But I normally like to do this just so we can talk about it then as a class. I can keep going through this, and I can keep going through the slides, and I can then add in a piece here that is going to set up the solution. So this allows my students to draw on their screens, so they can draw whatever they want. Again, I need to hit show responses, but the question I did is how do we repair bones, which was the previous slides. So they're able to go ahead and draw then on their screen, how do we go ahead and repair that bone? Maybe that's a surgical process. but whatever I draw and whatever my classmate and teammates draw will all be on the same thing. So students can make adjustments and collaborate there in order to deepen their discussion. This is going to allow our students to really be able to interact with each other and get that immersion, interaction, and that intensity of it. So they'll be able to actually interact with their peers in real time while they are going through this, if it's a synchronous mode. If this is asynchronous, they'll only be able to see their own results. I'm going to keep going through my slides, and at the very end, I'm going to have a reflection piece. This reflection piece is going to bring me to a website. So I embedded a website. This is a site that my students use. It's an ag education tracker to go ahead and track their skills that they learned in a portfolio that they personally have. I'm not going to log in as any student just so I don't give away that their access code and I can't show you on my end. But this allows them to have a portfolio of all their skills and which standards that they are meeting. So that's going to be a great reflection tool. And typically the way I do this is I pose a question to them and they have to answer it pretty in depth with 4 to 5 sentences. Pear Deck also has some different games. I mentioned Flashcard Factory being one. You access it through here. I do have one, I think, pulled up. Maybe I don't. So we'll do create vocab list. I've used this for my welding class. Oh, excuse me, sorry. So I can write amperage as a welding term. I will pull up the definition for me. I can do this again. So for voltage, I can pull the definition there. I can keep adding terms. And the way that this works is that I create the list. Students that are paired randomly once they log on to different teams. They have a day shift and a night shift. The day shift and the night shift's goal is to create these flashcards. So your student's paired with somebody random in the room or on the deck, and one person has to draw an image and one person has to go ahead and write the definition. So they're collaborating together to go ahead and make this. This is a game. So once it's done, the day shift and night shift cards all come together, and the students as a class review them for quality control standards and see if they actually meet the definition. I've had students had conversations and debates a lot about if this is an actual true definition and representation of the image as well as the definition. And then the teams are awarded points based off of what the class decision was, if they passed or failed that one. So that's going to add some sort of gaming and reflection and review onto vocabulary words. It's going to allow your students to create and engage things together. It's going to help build that community because they're going to have these discussions and these really critical thinking ideas of, is this a correct term? Is this not? It's going to allow them to pull them from their reading and go ahead and emerge in the content. And it's also going to allow you to provide feedback to your student in real time on, is that a correct definition? Is it not? So I really love this tool. I think it's really, really great. The kids that I have had used it have really enjoyed it. This overall is how you use Pear Deck. I will planning to be using this more now that my district is purchasing the software. So I'm excited to see how the premium fixture works. Thanks for watching.